Hello and welcome to Inside COP15. My name is Verity Cowper and we're coming to you live from our studio in Copenhagen. We'll be here every day with news and views from people on the ground at the Climate Summit. Today I'm joined by Niels Gellert from the Danish Foreign Ministry, Daniel T'seleie from the Canadian Youth Delegation and Daniel Nielsen, a journalist for the Copenhagen Post. So we'll start with you, Niels. You've obviously had a bit of a job. You're in charge of the transport for the Danish Foreign Ministry.
Yes.
I mean, this could have gone two ways for you, really. You could either have had sort of no one turn up, which would have been terrible for the conference, but almost quite good for you, really, wouldn't it? But actually, you've got loads of delegates here. There's thousands of people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how have you dealt with it?
Well, basically, I would say comment on that, and that is we are very happy with all the people showing up. So it would, even though it would have given me an easier job, it would be disappointing if there were few people. So we are very happy with the many delegations showing up. I can comment a bit on the operation. It's a rather complex operation, as you can imagine. It involves both public transportation, limousines, minivans, and dedicated bus transportation, and bicycles, and what have you, and also experimental elements, eco-transportation. But the main element of the transportation solution is free of charge public transportation for all participants at the conference. As we recognize that public transportation obviously is one of the ways of bringing down CO2 emissions from transportation.
I mean, we've obviously got free travel passes ourselves, and I have to say it's made it a lot easier to get around, so that's been brilliant. I know that bikes are another thing that you've introduced.
Yes.
You've got sort of people from NGOs perhaps and delegates cycling around on bikes, but what's been the arrangement for, can't imagine President Obama on his bike, so what have you sort of done for him?
No, and also it's important to be clear, at least on our side, that we are not going to solve the problems of the world with the logistics solution of the COP15 conference. So our role is to support and facilitate a good outcome of COP15. So our priority has been first of all security, and secondly efficiency. Which means that, of course, we can't compromise on security. That implies that there are elements in the transportation solution which are not exactly politically correct, such as, for instance, armored vehicles and limousine transportation and so forth. However, even with these elements, we have tried to bring down the environmental impact. And I'm proud to be able to say that as for the limousine solution, we have managed to keep CO2 emissions lower than the EU average on new cars being sold in EU, despite the fact that it's very heavy vehicles and it's large vehicles. So CO2 emissions are around 120 grams per kilometer, which is significantly less than the 160, which is the EU average at this time. So we have been working on that a lot, try to keep it down. But I think one of the, I was anxious to see how much public transportation was actually going to be used after all, because normally people take a taxi or even hire cars and so forth. But obviously people are really welcoming this offer that we give them of free of charge public transportation.
Daniel, what have you been using? How have you been getting around town?
Nothing but the metro.
Really? Is that the same for the youth delegation?
Oh yeah, it's a very good transit system here, and the employees are very helpful. We even had one transit employee, I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but who told us to make our voices heard here at COP. So It's a very good system. We've been enjoying it quite a bit.
And what do you think about using a transport system like this in Canada? I mean, obviously, Canada have been quite standoffish with it, reducing their emissions. So,
They have.
What do you think the possibilities are?
There are public transit systems in a lot of major Canadian cities, but one thing that really stands out in Copenhagen is how friendly it is for bicycles. There are the separate lanes for bikes. There is a massive amount of parking for bikes, and those are things you don't see in Canada. I was in Toronto before I flew to Copenhagen, and I am so amazed and impressed with anyone in Toronto who's brave enough to cycle around the city. It's really a death trap when you see people doing it. So that's something that Canada could really learn from Denmark.
Definitely. I mean, being a Canadian yourself, have you had a negative response at COP15 at all? Because a lot of people are sort of, looking down their noses at Canada and saying, well, what are you doing?
They should. I should point out that I don't agree with our country's position here. I really am quite displeased with our Prime Minister Stephen Harper and our Environment Minister Jim Prentice, as is the whole Canadian youth delegation. And we don't hide that, We wear that on our sleeve. We criticize them openly. We've been doing that for a while. So when we've been talking to the other international youth delegates over the last few days and at the Conference of the Youth over the weekend, people are usually very, very friendly. We all have the same view. We're all trying to change Canada's position. So personally, I haven't seen that, but I have heard stories of some of the other youth delegates from Canada, one in particular who apparently was trying to work with some of the other youth from developing countries and was turned away because she was from Canada. So there is an element of that. Canada's reputation has preceded us at these negotiations.
Yeah, and that's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially when you're young and you're trying to make that change.
Yeah.
Do you think that the youth delegation, are the young people in Canada? Is there a generation that's now going to bring into Canada that attitude that climate change is a problem?
Well, yes, certainly. I mean, that's one of our main roles here at COP15 is to represent the Canadian youth and the views of Canadian youth. And I think it's apparent that Canadian youth do want action on climate change and are quite displeased with our current government and even our past governments, I should say, inaction on climate change and poor performance there. And these days, it's not just youth. Recently, a few weeks ago in Canada, there was a motion passed in our House of Commons, our Parliament, that called for a certain mandate that Canada should bring to these negotiations. And among other things, it called for a 25% below 1919 level reduction in greenhouse gas emissions for industrialized countries. That's what the science tells us we need to do at the minimum. And that's not the position of the Canadian delegation here. So it's safe to say that now the Canadian delegation doesn't even represent Canada, not just Canadian youth, it doesn't represent all of Canada.